There's a difference between politics and government. And one of the things that makes me crazy, if you go to the New York Times website and you want to read stories about kind of things we talk about here, it's called politics, like the politics tab. And a lot of the stories in there really aren't about politics. They're about government. The point of politics, now it's fun and interesting, horse race and personalities and the game of it all. But the point of it is to pick people to lead us to make decisions in government. And as much as I like politics, this should be for all of us about governing, no matter what your philosophy is of governing. It makes me crazy that the New York Times calls all that stuff politics. It's really not. There's also a difference between politics and campaigns. Okay, there are a lot of people who say they're political reporters who write a lot, talk a lot about campaigns, and they really don't know anything about campaigns, or not very much. And there are exceptions. Throughout my career, I've tried to be someone who knows about all three: politics, campaigns, and government. Okay. Knowing about campaigns is really hard if you're a reporter, because if you've never worked in a campaign, it's like a very specialized business. And if you ask reporters about gross rating points, or how you buy an ad on Facebook, or what is how you train door knockers, the vast majority of political reporters, they really don't know anything about any of that. And I don't know very much, but I know more than most people who have my job. And it's an enormous advantage, because it's so interesting to understand how campaigns work. Politics is a whole different thing. Why am I saying all this? First of all, because as you know, I'm enamored with starting the show as if I'm in the midst of a Spalding Gray monologue, just like you've caught me mid thought. But also because our guests tonight are experts on campaigns, and we're gonna do something a little bit different for some of the show. We're gonna do some case studies of how campaigns work, and not just campaigns, but how the inner workings of things work in government too, because there's often the skill sets involved in a government issue, playing offense, playing defense, very similar to what happens within a campaign. So we're going to talk about a campaign thing and a governance thing, and maybe one other. And these case studies, we couldn't be more fortunate to have with us two people with PhDs in campaigns and politics. Kristin Davison, Republican, based here on the East Coast, and Karen Skelton, Democrat, based on the West Coast. Just PhDs in all of this stuff. So they'll be here in a minute. We're going to talk about this, and just so those of you who don't freak out, these are not some academic case studies about like 1972. These are things in the news today. So we're going to be talking about what's in the news, but you're going to get to understand the real truth of these news stories in the context of the expertise that they're going to share. So I'm super excited about it, and I think it's going to work, and I think you'll all enjoy it. If you're here on the two-way platform, you want to ask questions of these two great experts, practitioners, please raise your hand if you're watching on X or on YouTube. No hand raising, no smack in the chat. Please extend peace, love, and understanding to all around you here in the two-way environ, and extend the presumption of grace to all. I can't remember, and forgive me, I don't remember anybody's name, and I don't remember who knows whom. I can't remember. Have they been on together? Lori, have these two been on before together? Do they know each other? For all I know, they've been on together. Anyway, we'll see.
I don't think so.
Don't think so. All right. They're geniuses. They're both geniuses. I keep telling you that. Here's some breaking news. Mike Bloomberg just gave $1.5 million to fix the city, the pro Cuomo super PAC. Foreshadowed, by the way, on the morning meeting this morning. All right. So in a moment, we'll bring in our guests. We'll run through some news. We'll do these case studies that you'll find fascinating. Then we'll get to your questions again. Please raise your hand if you'd like to get in the conversation. But first, a word from our sponsors. And we start with our friends at Cozy Earth. Cozy Earth makes clothes that are so comfortable. They're temperature regulating. Is that what they say? Temperature regulating? Anyway, if it's hot outside, they keep you cool. And if it's cold outside, they keep you warm. It's like a magic cloak. I'm wearing the pants right now. I recommend the t-shirts. I recommend the bedding. Bedding is extraordinary. Bamboo sheets, temperature regulating. Yes, guaranteed to give you a comfortable night's sleep. If you don't like them, you return them after 100 days. They come with a 10-year warranty. And then right on top of the sheets, you put the bubble cuddle blanket, and you'll thank me. Send me a thank you note. Feel free. The Cozy Earth folks will give you a discount. If you use the promo code TWOWAY, you get 20% off. Go to CozyEarth.com. Use my code TWOWAY, 20% off the best pants, joggers, shirts, just everything on the site. Tell them you heard about all of this right here on Two-Way. Use my name because home isn't just where you live, it's how you feel. Let's go home with Cozy Earth. Thank you for your attention to that initial matter. And now, here's another word from another sponsor who we love having on the program, and that is the good folks at CB Distillery. Let's say you're having trouble sleeping. Happens to people, whatever age you're at. Maybe if you're a little bit older, if you're like Matthew Bartlett and thinking about Social Security, maybe you're having trouble sleeping. And if you are, try what millions have tried, the products from CB Distillery that can make a real difference. Has solutions that work with your body to help you with all sorts of things for so many stress and pain after exercise, mood and focus. But let's talk about sleep for a minute. Made from clean ingredients, only no fillers, just premium CBD. Imagine the possibility of waking up after a good night's sleep rested. Over 2 million people trust the products from CB Distillery. Now here's your chance to try them as well to get more sleep and have less stress. 40% off. Wow, 40% off with the promo code VIP. Go to cbdistillery.com. Promo code VIP for 40% off your order. cbdistillery.com. Promo code VIP. Thank you also for your attention to that matter. All right, here we go. Bringing in our guests. Karen Skelton. Oh, I know what the other case study is. It's also very good. I just remembered. I knew I had a third one. Here's Karen Skelton. Karen Skelton, welcome in. Tell folks just about the long arc of your role in American politics. How'd you start out, and where have you been, and what do you do now?
Yeah, just to age myself. It's so good to be here, Mark, and it's good to see you.
Love to have you here. Thank you.
I started as a field organizer in the Iowa caucuses for Walter Mondale, and I've worked in the maybe 10 presidential campaigns and 2 White Houses and in California for many years.
Okay, what do you do now for a living?
I'm a visiting scholar at Stanford University and working with Gavin Newsom on energy policies.
Okay. And do you know Kristin? Have you guys been on together? I feel like maybe you were.
We were on together,
I
right,
thought so.
Kristin?
Yeah, I thought so. Kristin's read about Walter Mondale in history books.
I was just gonna say it's so tough to compare, and that resume is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But it's tough to not as well together as Karen is, but definitely have done this campaigns and politics for a while, and started on the Republican side. I think the first field organizing I did was a mayor's race when I was like 12 years old. So everyone kind of starts young, and then work their way through. Was on the Rubio presidential, then kind of hopped around different races, did the Glenn Youngkin's race in Virginia, and now I continue to help manage and consult for campaigns. Have not graduated yet to academia.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Professor Skelton will give you a syllabus and maybe you can read in. Kristin, have you ever done a race in California?
I have not. No,
Yeah.
I have colleagues that do a lot, but I don't make it out there.
Yeah, it's hilarious when they do statewide races in California because, in my experience, it's like nothing else. It's just nuts how much money is involved and how retail is just like not a thing. So let's start with this because there's 50 stories we could start with, but this one will ease us into the case study. Yes, on 50 is going to pass. No one thinks it's not. And I still don't understand why Donald Trump didn't raise money for it. Everybody's pointing their finger at Kevin McCarthy saying, Kevin, you said you'd raise 100 million and you didn't raise, you raised 4 million or something. I don't understand. It was so important to the White House. Karen, do you know why they didn't raise any money for it?
No, I really don't. It was winnable for them.
Yeah, that's right. Kristin, do you know why?
I don't. I speculating. I think it was winnable, but if you kind of go back to when that first started, at the same time, Texas was moving. There were rumblings in Missouri and Indiana, which are still going on. It looks like they just saw they could have a cheaper date somewhere else.
Yeah.
So if they looked and saw that California was rolling and how expensive it was going to be, and it still was expensive, and a lot of money's been spent there, it might be cheaper to do the same thing in Indiana and Missouri, where, to Mark mentioned earlier, the cost per point is a little cheaper, and you have to convince fewer people. That might be what they thought.
Yeah. So
they also might have thought they might have thought they had more of Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he inexplicably, climbed down off the
He did. I saw an interview the other day. He's like, I'm not a spokesman for this thing. But again, it's not like it was some obscure thing. This was like the dominant story in the news for a couple of days, and the battle was joined. And then again, I don't get it. Now, Gavin's not taking his foot off the accelerator. He's doing all these videos saying, got to vote, got to make sure it passes. Here's our first case study. This is a video. I think it came out today, put together by Yes on 50. I'm on the press list, so they emailed it to me. I just want you guys to watch this, everybody, but Karen and Kristin. And just as you watch it, I want you to deconstruct how you think this thing got produced, how they booked everybody, how they decided who to include. How did this thing go? This is the number, you probably know what number it is because I've been talking about it for 4 minutes. Number 13, please.
California, with Prop 50, you have the power.
You have the power to stand up to Donald Trump.
You have the power to protect reproductive freedom.
You have the power to stop election rigging.
You have the power to give America a fair midterm.
You have the power to restore checks and balances.
You have the power to stand up for everyone being erased by this president.
For all of us in all 50 states.
Yes, on 50.
Now, Karen, my first two thoughts are, why is Chris Murphy in that? And why does AOC get to be in it twice? What do you, Chris Murphy wants to run for president. He's on MSNBC all the time, but he seems like he doesn't belong in there. So what are your thoughts about that thing?
Chris Murphy's somebody's friend, so that's why he's in there.
Okay, somebody's friend. Like maybe the ad maker for that ad makes ads for Chris Murphy.
Exactly. I mean, this is a closing ad. It makes sense to me. The messaging on it, it's designed to convert people into action. There's not going to be that many people, so they're really playing to the base. They're driven by the polls, which show that most of the independents voted early, probably, and so you're going to have a low turnout, high Dem. You got to get women out, so that explains a couple of the people in there. They went from stick it to Trump ads. The arc of their message was stick it to Trump ads, and I don't know if you've seen them, but a couple of them are really funny.
Yeah.
And then they closed with this power ad, and I think some of the people were just were selected because they played to the base. Ace and the guys who made this ad, they know everyone. They worked on Kamala's campaign. They could pick almost anyone they want. Obama had already been running some ads in the state, and I'm surprised they didn't put Tom Steyer in, but he doesn't really do any. He's been putting his own money in, but he doesn't really do anything.
Well, you raised the other point, and then I want Kristin to weigh in. The other thing is Kamala is not in the ad.
Right.
Does that strike you? Or maybe just she wasn't available? Like, seems to me that kind of sticks out that she's not in the ad.
Yeah, I think it sticks out.
Okay. Kristin, my thought from a Republican point of view, just to tee you up here, is Republicans couldn't make an ad like that. You couldn't find a dozen well-known Republican politicians popular and known statewide in California. Like literally, you couldn't find a dozen.
Yeah, no, California. I don't know. I mean, because there were a few in there that I suspect aren't well known outside of California. So you probably could have found, maybe one or two people. Not that many. I would think. I mean, if you were doing this in Texas or somewhere else, or let's say Virginia, who's going through the process now, you would probably test to see just who. I would assume they tested all of them and they all polled at least with some kind of name ID and hit the different groups that they needed to, women and the base. I'm not surprised that Harris isn't in it, mostly because she has so much going on right now. So I think whoever made the ad probably thought, probably told her, hey, you got this book tour going on. We're not going to pull you away from that. You go focus on that. You sell that book, girl. We'll take care of this. If I had to guess that they used, that excuse not to have her in there. This seems to me to be people who are just a different wing of the party, but different branches of the party. But also they didn't lose. They're most of the winners.
Poker face Karen Skelton. Do you know why Kamala Harris wasn't in that ad?
Like, I don't think it really mattered for this ad. I mean, honestly, I don't think that they wanted to ask her to do this ad, not because she has higher negatives or she's not underwater in California, but she's not that popular either. And I don't think people know anybody in that ad except Gavin, Senator Padilla and Obama, AOC, Elizabeth Warren, Chris Murphy. No, it really doesn't matter who's in it. They're just telling people that they're powerful and, and the rest of the country's going to listen to them. So go out and, and be powerful and be, badass as Californians. This is your chance. Go vote. And people right now are still sour on Kamala, so they're not going to bring her in to help pull across the finish line.
Yeah.
She's not going to motivate anyone to act.
Right. Okay. Whereas Chris Murphy, I know everyone in California
Whereas Chris Murphy,
sitting around being told to mobilize by a senator from Connecticut. All right, let's talk about the New York City mayor's race. And again, there's a bunch of news we'll get to too. But Michael Bloomberg just tweeted. First, I told you he's putting more money into the pro Cuomo anti-Mondami super PAC. Here's what he just tweeted: 4 months ago, I endorsed Andrew Cuomo because I thought his management experience and government know-how made him the best choice for New Yorkers. I still do. And today, with early voting underway, I wanted to reiterate my support for Andrew Cuomo. Being mayor of New York City is the second toughest job in America, and the next mayor will face immense challenges. Andrew Cuomo has the experience and toughness to stand up for New Yorkers and get things done. I hope you'll join me in supporting him. Mike Bloomberg used to be my boss. I can tell you this: he would not be giving money, he would not be retweeting his endorsement if he wasn't shown data that shows this is a winnable race. He just wouldn't. So what happened today? Another poll came out showing the race within about 10 points. Quinnipiac, here it is, number 21. Mondami 43, down 3 points since early October. Cuomo at 33. You guys have that, number 21? Here it is. And you look at the crosstabs, Cuomo's doing quite well. Here's the Cuomo press release on this poll. I'm going to read the whole thing to you because this gets the question I want to ask you, ladies, which is how a campaign that's clearly behind but seems to have momentum, how you balance being optimistic with not wanting to seem like you're assuming you're going to win. So here's the Cuomo press release about the poll and the situation generally. This is from the Cuomo spokesman. Make no mistake, the race is tightening, and Andrew Cuomo is closing in fast. This is the second poll in a week showing Mondami stuck below 45% of the vote despite a lack of scrutiny and glowing press coverage, and Andrew Cuomo gaining. He's closed the gap by 3 points from the last Quinnipiac poll, and his coalition is expanding, keeping a third of Democrats, winning half of Republicans, and leading with independents. Next page, please. More importantly, older voters are breaking hard for Cuomo, and they're the ones showing up early. That's how you win in New York City. We've seen this movie before. In the Bloomberg and Giuliani races, late polls missed the surge of real working class voters who turn out when it counts. The same thing is happening now. So while Mondami continues to spew word salad, he's stuck in the mud. The momentum is with Andrew Cuomo, and it's only growing every day. I rate about half those sentences as true, but that's politics. But the true ones are important. Cuomo went on Fox News today and once again went hard after the left wing of the party. Here he is, number 18. And this roll 18 right into 19, please.
Truth is, there's a quiet civil war going on in the Democratic Party right now. You have an extreme left, radical left, Bernie Sanders, AOC. Mamdani is just the banner carrier for that movement, versus the mainstream moderate Democrats. They now call me moderate. They used to call me liberal. Now I'm a moderate because the whole party shifted. And that's what this election is about. It is that civil war. I believe that far left will destroy the Democratic Party. I believe it will destroy the Democratic Party nationwide if that far left becomes dominant. It would be the death. It would be the death of the Democratic Party. The Republicans are licking their lips, hoping this kid Mamdani wins because they can pick him up and carry him around the country and say, here's the Democratic Party, 34-year-old, never had a job, wants to decriminalize prostitution, doesn't like the police, defund the police, abolish jails. Literally a socialist, anti-business, anti-corporate. Government should control the means of production. That's what their first motto. That's Marxism. So
okay, dump out of this.
Socialist.
Just to clarify, the first bite was from Fox Business, not Fox News, and this is obviously Stephen A. Smith on Sirius XM. So let's review what's happening. The polls are showing it tighter than it was. The early vote data, in terms of the size of it and the makeup of the electorate, is older, favors Cuomo. Cuomo had the best debate of his life, I think, in the final debate of the race. Mondami has been a bit on the defensive on a few issues. And the New York Post is rat-a-tat-tat every day. Opposition research has dropped on him now 3 days in a row. So, Karen, you know Andrew, right? Did you work for Andrew or you just know him?
I just know him.
You just know him. All right.
We were in the Clinton administration together.
Right. All right. We'll start with Karen. So, Karen, if you were in the Cuomo war room, how would you be trying to message here regarding the state of the race? Do you think they're doing a good job? What are the elements of trying to say we're behind 10, but we can still win without seeming oblivious or overconfident or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's right that there's a quiet civil war going on in the country, and there's probably a quiet effort by his team right now to get the establishment Democrats who Andrew can rely on, and mostly older people like Bloomberg who can come in and support him at the end, because it's about, really the brand of the Democratic Party and what that'll mean coming out of this election. I don't agree with him, and I wouldn't say it'll destroy the party and that somehow, civilization's going to end if Mamdani is elected. And I don't think he's in any danger of being over optimistic about his chances, because he's been, he's got some humility, I assume. I think that he knows how much in a hole he has been. And it doesn't matter. I really don't think it's going to matter that much to most people in the country if Mamdani wins. It's not going to screw Democrats overall if we choose who Cuomo says is a socialist. He has to fail in office in order for it to matter, regardless of whether he's 34 or 84, just as Andrew Cuomo failed in office, and it didn't ruin the rest of the Democratic Party. So if I'm him, if I'm his campaign, I'm trying to bring in the Bloombergs and the people who can be standing up and making him not look damaged, which he is. He's a damaged candidate. And I would try to bring people in that restore his dignity and leave it at that.
Yeah. Kristin, it's hard to poll a race like this, right? You've got a Republican, you've got two Democrats, you've got a guy whose support, he's had one citywide election, and you can look at who's voters in the primary. But I would think they'd be whether they're looking at the public polls or they're doing their own polling, it'd be kind of flying a little bit blind, right?
I think they're flying a little bit blind. I also think the timing is tough. So the final week of a campaign, every poll that's out there is bouncing around the world. And I would caution every campaign to take every poll that comes out in the final, 7 days with a grain of salt, because polls start to herd, people, Quinnipiac's pretty reputable in terms of just the numbers they give, but still there's gonna be a little bit of a herding process there. One poll shows it close, then another, and you have that margin of error start siding to one way. I think that the biggest lesson here in this race in New York, Mamdani has a lot of, frankly, scary things to outside of New York, normal Americans. But the Democrat Party and, frankly, the Republican Party shouldn't lose the what is attracting a lot of voters to Mamdani. It's his focus on this cost of living, this populist message. I mean, that is what I'm afraid is going to get lost in like the more sexy aspects of this race, like, like 9/11 and this and that, like outrageous things. That's going to be the focus of, wow, he's really scary. But in reality, people are flocking to him because he's addressing the fact that they can't afford an apartment and they can't afford to ride the bus. And yeah, he has terrible ideas on how to fix that. I'm saying that as a Republican, but that's why he, kind of took off. And that's the bigger thing here. I don't necessarily believe this is a 3-point race. I think at this stage of the game, most people who say they're undecided just don't want to tell a pollster they're not going to vote. So it's really about turning out. Now, out of all those data points that were in the Cuomo press release, the one that I do believe would be to follow is the early vote turnout. So if that is trending their way, then maybe it is going to be a little bit closer. Maybe Mamdani's people are missing something and it's not going to be the blowout they thought. But in terms of polling and news articles and all that, it gets so noisy at this part of the campaign that, if I was running his campaign, keep your head down, stop focusing on this stuff, and just go and start pulling your people out of their apartments to go vote. I mean, that's what he really needs to be doing. And we'll see in a few days. But really, the biggest message here for both parties, and I think you need, watching all the chaos that's going up in that Maine Democrat primary is the same thing. I mean, that guy has the younger Democrat who's running has so many issues, but he's still packing rooms of 700 people. And it's because he has the same populist, you're hurting, I'm hearing you message. And I think similar to how we all underestimated Trump in 2016, who had that same message, we might underestimate it again. And that's what I would encourage both parties to really focus on after this election on Tuesday.
Yeah, well, really well said. All right, raise your hand if you want in on the conversation. The president's up in Korea getting ready for his meeting tonight, our time, late morning in Seoul with Premier Xi. And he's on Truth Social. And we could spend the entire program just deconstructing his post because he's posted about a bunch of stuff. But I want to move to the shutdown. There's three tracks as I see it. One is what's happening in the real world, real concern about SNAP benefits and paychecks missed and the economic spinoff effects. That's one track, healthcare, real world healthcare. Then there's the talk of talking. And Senator Thune, I think just playing the game of not wanting to appear to be recalcitrant, is saying, yeah, there's talks going on. But then when you read beneath the headlines, it really is not clear that talks. And then the other track, unfortunately, is dominated. Is a lot of anger today from the congressional leaders towards each other. I'll give you just a sample of what is as harsh as I think we've heard during the shutdown. Here's Senator Schumer, number 5, please.
We are saying the Republicans can fund it now, and they're using these people as hostages. Plain and simple. Next. That's the answer. The answer is they can fund it right now. Okay? Right now.
All right, that seems a little angry. Here's a little bit more Schumer. We're not going to play the whole thing, but here's a little bit more of Schumer anger at Speaker Johnson, number 6, please.
Irrespective of the dispute on whether USDA contingency funds can be used for SNAP benefits.
It is not, wait a minute, excuse me. It is not a dispute. It is fact they can use it, and the Republicans say it.
Okay, but there's, only 5 or 6 billion, and it's not cost $8 billion monthly just to administer. I mean, if anything, it would only last a couple
It does not cost 5 or 6 billion to administer. There's enough money to say.
This is not a happy guy at Junior's eating cheesecake. He's obviously very upset. The stakes are high. Here is Mike Johnson talking about Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries using extraordinary language himself. Number 8, please.
Wouldn't that be a futile exercise when we have a CR that's been sitting over there since September 19th? If I brought the House back and we passed another CR, it would meet the exact same fate from Chuck Schumer. He would mock it, they would spike it, and they would try to blame it on us. So what would be the point of that? We're all concerned about the timing. The Democrats are eating up the clock. We have very important work to do here, and that's why we're pleading with them, not Chuck Schumer. Look, I think Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are irredeemable at this point. I don't think they'll be able to tell Mondami in New York and his disciples that they voted to open the government. I've given up on the leadership. So we're trying to appeal to a handful of moderates or centrists who care more about the American people and will put the people's interests over their own and do the right thing in the Senate. I mean, there's no point in me sitting down with Chuck Schumer. He's painted himself into a corner. I get all that. Mondami it looks like he's going to win and be the mayor of New York City. And Hakeem Jeffries came out and endorsed him. That's all you need to know. Hakeem Jeffries is terrified that Mondami, one of his disciples, is going to challenge him in his own seat in the election next fall. You've already seen that rumored. Some of you have reported on it. So he had to do it.
Kristin, if you were staffing either of those two guys and they came off, would you say to Chuck Schumer, that demeanor's not good? Would you say to Mike Johnson, irredeemable is kind of a strong word, or both those are fine for the moment?
For the moment, I think they're fine. So it was almost like there was a blanket, instruction that went out today to have everyone have righteous anger. So you saw Thune, you saw Schumer.
Yeah, Thune did it too. I just didn't play it, but yeah, he did.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, and the reason being is because we're 2 or 3 days out from all these benefits stopping. Today's and what I would suspect today is, I think today's the first day congressional staff didn't get their paycheck. So there's probably a lot of anger up there, or at least people that are stressed. It's more stressed than usual. And so, I don't think I would tell them to do anything differently today. I would say if they do it tomorrow, I would tell them to pull it back. You can't be that angry every single day without a solution or showing that you're making progress to a solution. But, we are at a point where I think a lot of people are, around the country and in DC and that are be affected saying, what exactly is going on? Why aren't we moving the ball? And so it was probably the right day to have a little bit of righteous anger.
Karen, has Chuck Schumer ever gotten that angry at you?
No, but presidents have been.
Yeah.
I have yelled at me.
Yeah.
I agree here with Kristin that I'd give it a day or two. They're just trying to get to tap dance to the benefit stopping and the insurance going up and healthcare, but they're all I think. If I was talking to the Democrats right now, I would just ask the question, why is the party that is in charge of the presidency and the Senate and the House not somehow to blame for what's going on here? They're in charge of everything.
Yeah.
So, none of this is new. For the last 50 years, every president has had a shutdown. The difference this time is that it is, it's so long. The longest was under Trump too, 35 days. Other presidents have closed, the government for 1, 4, 5 days in order to, win some broad policy objective. The problem here is that these guys aren't going to be able to solve it without the president. And the president doesn't seem to care. He doesn't seem to give any regard for the cruelty that's happening. Josh Hawley is now our voice of reason. That's got to give everybody some concern. So, I think that the Republicans are to blame. I think that the Democrats should continue to repeat that. And the president's going to have to get involved to solve it. Obviously, Speaker Johnson has no control over his caucus. And I just wanted to throw out one question about this shutdown that it had just dawned on me in the last couple of days, which is who lined up the firing squad in the order that they've been lined up? Why is it that air traffic controllers come first to get their paychecks cut and not like plankton scientists who work for NOAA? Or why are poor children being, denied food instead of, taking away funding from BLM land for cows? I just don't understand what the sequence of destruction is here, and why we have to see so much suffering from the people who can least defend themselves.
It's a great question. I think one argument that I've heard for it is air traffic controllers keep the country moving. It just disrupts people's personal lives and business. But I had the same thought. I don't want them not to get paid, but doesn't know that they're literally the top priority. Okay, raise your hand if you want to ask questions. There's so many stories. I'm just going to run through, ladies. If you want to just jump in, like we're sitting around the dinner table, and I'm reading my phone at the table, and I'm being rude, but you hear me read some stories aloud. Just chime in if you want. Tons going on in advance of the president's meeting with Premier Xi, again coming up in a couple hours. This issue that I raised this morning that I was confused, like, why is it that the hawkish, bipartisan hawkish caucus in the Congress isn't concerned that the president seems headed into this meeting with everybody smiling with the murderous dictator? And sure enough, the chair of the Select Committee on China in the House says that he's communicated to the administration that they cannot sell advanced AI chips to our country's primary adversary. Providing China with access to these chips would be akin to giving Iran weapons-grade uranium. So there's that. And then, sorry, looking at the wrong screen here. The president said on Truth Social about an hour ago, he's looking forward to the meeting. Then Mark Caputo is reporting, I'm jumping around here. Mark Caputo is reporting that the White House has found some way to pay the military during the shutdown. And president had a weird Truth Social tweet about people who've been prosecuted, who he's close to. I was going to show you and do as a case study, Ian Sams, who was a spokesperson for President Biden, who said sort of the main spokesperson for saying Biden did not have cognitive decline. He worked with the counsel's office. The committee investigating the cognitive decline issue released his video of his testimony today. And he said he met with the president twice in person, was on a phone call with him once, and one Zoom with him. And he was on, he had one soundbite in particular on MSNBC where he said, those of us who see the president every day know blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to talk about that on Next Up tomorrow. We won't do it tonight, but it's pretty compelling if you're interested in the question of whether they were honest about what they saw and how they defended Joe Biden.
I'll weigh in on the
weigh in on that.
No, I'm going to weigh in on the on what the president's doing with China, which is completely confusing to me because he goes to Japan and South Korea and gets, almost $1 trillion in commitments to invest in this country. And one has to assume that part of the reason to do that is to lessen our dependence on China, which is, really cleaning our clocks when it comes to industrial manufacturing and filling the supply chain. But what's he going to say to China when he gets there after he's already, secured these commitments from these other countries? It's so confusing to me, especially when you start with the fact that he's turned off the spigot to all the investments in the United States, undone so much of what the last administration did to invest in manufacturing and onshoring and meeting the demands that AI is bringing into this country. So it's just very confusing what his strategy is with China, given what he just did in Japan and South Korea.
Well, we may know when we wake up in the morning. He likes to be both good cop and bad cop himself all at once. All right, Kristin, you want to comment on any of those headlines? Okay, here we go. A couple words from sponsors, and then your questions for Karen and Kristin. So please raise your hand if you want in on the conversation. First, a word from one of our new sponsors, True Classic. True Classic starts with a simple mission: bring everybody premium, comfortable clothing at an affordable price. They've sold over 25 million shirts already, over 5 million customers, lots of 5-star reviews. I've got the clothes. They're extremely comfortable and they're extremely well made. I've been wearing them now, and they fit very well. They feel great. They're built for comfort, built to last. You can wear them out doing stuff in casual, but they also dress up just fine under a blazer, etc. They sell them lots of places. You can buy them on Amazon, Target, Costco, Sam's Club, but buy them here and help us out by showing that you do what we say. TrueClassic.com/two-way. Go to TrueClassic.com, True-way. Try True Classic clothes out for yourself. Fit, feel, price, all extremely good right now. Again, TrueClassic.com/two-way. Thank you for your attention to this matter. All right. Now time for folks in the community to get a chance to weigh in. You can ask about stuff we've talked about or anything you want with our two great experts. And we start with Chris Taylor. Chris, folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Karen and for Kristin?
Thank you. And you can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this actually goes a little bit back to this morning. I think it was this morning, Mark. I think you inferred that you were aware of a few, maybe reporters that had some information that they obtained off the record about Biden's capacity to govern. I think the conversation might have gone into the direction of at what point, I guess my question is, you couldn't divulge that, or these reporters could not divulge that information at the time because they received it off the record. My question is, where's the transition between national security, a true national security issue where you or other reporters would be under obligation to actually bring it up, even though the information was received off the record?
Yeah. So in the abstract, that's a very important question because if somebody tells you something that's in the public interest, you report it. In this case, it depends on what they were told. If they were told, I've got concerns of Biden being the nominee, well, you didn't really need them to tell you that there should be concerns about Biden being the nominee. So I don't know that it would have helped national security to say to break the confidence and say, hey, Secretary X thinks Biden's debate performance was such that he shouldn't be the nominee, because a lot of their concerns, I can tell you, were not about, unfortunately, my point of view, whether he could be president. They were worried about him losing the election.
At one point there was a conversation. I think the conversation went that somebody had inferred that he might need to step down. Well, the debate exposed some pretty significant issues.
Yeah, but again, it's a very high bar to violate an off the record, and in this case, again, it's up to them, not the press, to escalate it to say 25th Amendment or publicly call for him to step aside. So I'm very sensitive to the issue you raised. In this case, as far as I know, it was not implicated.
And
but
we could all see the same thing.
Yeah. Well, that's my main point. Is you didn't need them to say there's some questions about this. I will say that sometimes the issue is just you're withholding the information from the voters. Had Biden continued to run and not step down, and then the voters didn't know that there were people close to him who thought that. But as I say all the time about this matter, you only needed a C-SPAN subscription to know that Biden couldn't possibly serve 4 more years, and that he was struggling. So it's an odd case, and I don't think it rises, at least based on what I know they were saying, to the level of national security or a temptation to violate the agreement. Kristin.
Well, I appreciate that. There are definitely sloppy reporters out there. You see people get burned all the time. They think they're talking. I mean, I think it just happened. I saw some article where someone looked like they were texting a reporter and didn't realize. But yeah, I can't think that would be enough of a reason to break that confidence. But to your point of people saying they should, that candidate should step down, they don't seem, he doesn't seem like he has it together. I feel like that those conversations happen a lot about a lot of candidates. And that's not just because of their age or physical ability. So when you're talking with a reporter, I don't know if, to Mark's point, I would hope it wouldn't reach that point to break the confidence.
Yeah. Have we lost Karen temporarily? I don't see her here. Somebody will tell me.
Her camera's off. We're working on it.
Okay. Chris, thank you. Great question.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me know if she's back. Bring her back in.
Yeah.
For now, we'll go to Susan. Susan, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind for Kristin.
Actually, my question is for Karen. So do you want to put me on hold and call the next person?
No, I don't, because she's right here. She's back right here. Here's Karen. Let's see. See if I can get Karen in here.
You can put me in the queue.
No. We're gonna go right here in order. Karen, are you able to turn your camera on so I can bring you in? Let's see. Here we go. Here's Karen on a different device. Maybe she forgot to charge her laptop in advance of the show. I'm just speculating. Karen, Susan has a question for you. Thank you for coming
Actually,
back.
2 things. I was going to mention that you were talking the other day about Graham Plattner having 700 Mainers show up at his meeting, but it was in Damariscotta, which is sort of his backyard. It's sort of known for oysters and pumpkins. So getting 700 people.
Now, 2 things. One is the whole state's known for oysters and pumpkins. So I'm not impressed with that.
Well,
but
so it's not part of the.
Susan, do you live in Maine?
No, but my cousins do.
Your cousin do. I could just tell you, I know a decent amount about the politics. I swear to you, I don't think there's been more than 100 events in the history of Maine that have 700 people, political events. If Bernie Sanders went there, he'd probably get 700 people. But if Kamala Harris went, or JD Vance, they couldn't get 700 people.
No, I was just pointing out that it was in his home
Yeah,
backyard.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Okay, question.
So my
for
question
Karen.
for Karen is, so Mike Johnson was talking about this, and I was thinking about it too. I'm a Democrat, but there might be some senators who had very tight races that just won by a whisker in battleground states. If any of them were motivated to, cross party lines, what would be the fallout from the Democratic Party for them?
I mean, I would hope that I would hope that the Democratic Party would look at the results of whatever they wanted to do for falling out of line with the Democrats and voting for the Republicans. I mean, I've become a kind of person that's really very pragmatic politically. And if we can get something done and it means you have to be a little bit Republican to do it, then just do it. There's a lot of stuff that we're supporting right now that is moving forward because we're finding some agreement with Republicans on certain things. If you look at, some of the stuff that I work on, I never thought I'd know anything about geothermal energy, but I sure as hell love it now because I know I can get some stuff done by voting with Republicans. So I would hope that would be the case.
I mean, otherwise they could lose their seat. It would be easy to mount a argument against them on the Republican side. I don't know how much the memory will be of the shutdown, but I'm sure it would all be, just for the mill as far as the Republicans were concerned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Susan,
the
thank you.
Democrats have to be pretty desperate right now. I mean, we're a party in the desert. We don't have any leaders. If we can get things done and show and make a case for getting stuff done, We need to do it. That was being a Republican or being with some Republicans. I would do it in order to swerve back over to the Democrat side when we can.
Thank you for that. Jack, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Karen and for Kristin.
Well, I'm in San Antonio, although I was raised in the birthplace of the gerrymander. And I had a question about California and some of the nuances between the gerrymander and the primary system. As I understand it, and I say this as an outsider, it appears that the system is set that by and large, you get two Democrats running against each other in the general. And I'm wondering how that kind of plays out. They're all indignant about some of the games Texas is playing on gerrymander, but that seems to effectively really kind of do in the GOP, at least in California. I wondered what you said, just how that works.
Well, if the Republicans could sell their ideas and mount good candidates, it actually would make it easier for them to get the general election than another Democrat, because the Democrats would divide the vote. It happens because the party's just so decimated. And the idea behind it, Karen, you'll explain it in more detail, is they want more centrist candidates. And they think that what's called a jungle primary produces more centrist candidates. Karen, has it worked out the way the proponents of it intended?
Basically. I mean, I think it's where, I mean, the Democrats, are so dominant in the state that like Mark, you're absolutely right. The Republicans have to get a very, very attractive, moderate Republican to get in the top two, out of the system. So yes, it has worked. I think the Democrats would be better off in our state if they had more competition. I mean, Gavin is now running for president, so he's doing things that he's moved to the center. He hasn't had to get reelected in California.
Yeah. So just to flesh that out, Jack, if there were the normal system, the typical system, the Republicans would tend to nominate less electable people because they'd nominate people in a primary where the far wing of the party would dominate a primary. The way it works now, if they can run someone decent who can appeal to a broad set of the electorate, they can effectively get to the general election, but they, in theory, would have a candidate who had more broader support. And it should be relatively easy because typically, not 100% of the time, but often you'll see a field with like 6 strong Democrats or 4 strong Democrats and 1 strong Republican candidate. And yet that person frequently doesn't make it because they can't get more votes than the second more popular Democrat in the open primary.
And the Democrats cannibalize each other. Steve Garvey was an excellent Republican candidate in California, except he was such a bad candidate. But he had great name recognition. He was with the Dodgers for many years. He's handsome. He had money. He's from Southern California. I mean, he could have really, been a Schwarzenegger type. Yeah. But he just was miserable to listen to.
Yeah. Jack, thank you.
I had a question, though, on the primaries. I never thought I would say this, but I kind of miss the old smoke-filled rooms in some respects. The primary system has been so disappointing in attracting the extremes from both ends as opposed to the middle.
Well, this system's supposed to address that. And I think Karen's right. The Democrats would nominate better candidates and the Republicans would have a chance to win if the Republican Party could get its act together. It's just the states move so far to the left. Even back when the Republicans were competitive statewide, you pretty much had to be pro-choice and pro-gay rights to win, like Pete Wilson. But you could be conservative on immigration and a range of issues. Now, the Republican Party hasn't figured out what it means to win statewide in that state without, being a Democrat. They haven't found the issues that work. At least no one's done it in practice so far. Very similar to Texas, where no Democrat can win statewide. Jack, thank you. Kristin, who's going to win your AG race in Virginia and your governor's race in Virginia?
Oh man, it's tough. The AG ones, it's tough to figure out. I think it all depends on the margin. Like it just kind of looks like that governor's race is moving, kind of going in one direction. I think it'll depend on, how big the margins are and how many tickets split. So I don't know. I think the AG's favorite. I think Miara is probably favored to hold on there. And it's definitely, a lot closer than I think Democrats thought it would be what you see now is you see Spamberger putting so much money and campaigning, to push her margin up. It's kind of like they all looked around and said, there's nothing we can do to help Jay Jones. He's sunk himself. We can only go and push our margins so far that we have to drag him over the finish line. That's what they're doing now, I think. I don't know if it'll work, but, Jason Miars, the incumbent, he had a good debate and he has a good message and a good reason to reelect him outside of all the scandal stuff. So we'll see. Now it is all about who's getting their vote out. And hopefully, the team on the ground for the Republicans are pushing every early vote and grabbing every piece of mail and making sure that they get enough people out on election day.
Great. Okay. One more word from a sponsor, then we'll take at least one more question. So if you want in the conversation, please raise your hand. If you're a little stressed, anybody on here stressed, raise your hand if you're a little bit stressed. If life seems a little crazy, you're looking for a way to unwind, try one of our new sponsors, cornbreadhemp.com. Go to cornbreadhemp.com/two-way. 30% off your first offer. So if you're stressed, you can save a lot of money here. 30% off your first order. This is a natural way to relieve aches and discomfort. Cornbread hemp products formulated to work with your body, not against it. If you've tried other stuff, this may be the solution for you. It's made from the best part of the hemp plant, the flower, for the purest and most potent CBD, relieves discomfort, stress, and sleeplessness. Go right now. Two-way listeners and viewers can save 30% on your first order. Head to cornbreadhemp.com/two-way. Use the promo code two-way at checkout. cornbreadhemp.com/two-way. Use the promo code two-way. And Tom, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Kristin and for Karen.
Here, I'm in Chicago, and I had a quick question. I think I saw some highlights from the New York mayor debate, and there was a question about how Mamdani is planning on funding his free buses. And one of his responses, it sounded like, I'm going to paraphrase, that he was looking to partner with the state to increase corporate taxes and higher taxes. So my question is, what would be the motivation of anybody outside of New York City to pay more in taxes to fund buses for free for residents of New York City?
Let's go to transit expert Karen Skelton. Karen?
I don't have to get my head around that, but why? Because it's a better place to be if people aren't, if people are moving around. It's good for commerce. I don't know. I wouldn't think that that's something that a lot of people would be in favor of. I guess it's good. It's a good way to keep people who are tourism alive and moving, as Mark said earlier about the air traffic controllers. It keeps people moving.
Yeah. Kristin, thoughts?
Well, unfortunately, we don't get to pick the taxes we pay. We don't get, as taxpayers and the good people of New York, if you live in Albany or somewhere else, you won't really have a say on whether you do that or not. And that tax will, if they were to partner, I could see a politician, the governor or whoever else rationalizing it for tourism, but they could probably hide that tax in a million different ways. All of a sudden there's a cable tax or a candy tax or more cigarette taxes. There's a million different ways they can hide it. So most people outside of New York City probably won't even know that they're paying for it.
I was with the governor of Maryland the other night. He was in San Francisco, and he says they're doing the same thing. So I think this is a reaction to the government being shut down in part and people needing to get around and not being able to afford it in part.
Same thing, making the buses free?
Mm-hmm.
And permanently or just now?
Not permanent. He didn't say permanently, but he said now.
Yeah. Kristin, I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
I think from what I saw, it was, you have to be a federal employee. So if you're a federal employee, you get a free, which is smart. I mean, it's good. I think especially the Virginia and Maryland, they have to deal with that in a unique way. Ultimately, one thing about the shutdown and all this, it will shift to the governors. It hasn't really yet. I think most governors have been able to enjoy saying DC's got to get their act together. Come Saturday, Saturday's November 1st, all these governors have to figure out what they're going to do, because it doesn't matter. It's not their fault if millions of people aren't getting food in their state or they're standing outside of food lines. They have to figure it out. And if you're a governor who hasn't managed your budget to have a surplus or a rainy day fund, I mean, all you can really do is stand there and say, blame DC. That's not going to help the people in your state that probably elected you when they can't buy food for their family that day. So I'm going to be really interested. If this goes another week, which I suspect it will, how do all these governors, particularly in some of these blue states who don't have that surplus, more of them just, have debt, how do they react to it? What do they do? Do they just blame DC? I tend to think that that's not going to go too far in their state, but we'll see.
Can I ask a follow-up on SNAP?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just looking up some data here, and I saw that the budget for SNAP in 2019 was about $75 billion, and it's gone up to $110 billion this year. Why?
Either of you know?
I don't know, but I
that's
can tell
way
you.
beyond inflation.
I mean, the thing, it's mind-boggling because politically, most of those people, I think most of those people, a lot of those people are going to be Republicans and Trump voters, and I'm not sure why he continues to punish them. I don't know why.
And I heard that argument before that a lot of people in red states and such. I think I saw that the other day. The red state senators are voting to open the government.
Well,
so we need 60 votes to pass spending bills in the Senate, not 53, not 54.
Right.
The SNAP numbers are going up because the divide in this country between those that have and those that have not is going up. We're going to continue to see SNAP numbers go up. People are becoming poorer and poorer at one end, and people are becoming richer and richer in a small sliver of the other end.
Tom,
and this
thank
is
you.
what you'll see.
Sorry, Karen, go ahead. Finish your thought. I'm sorry.
No, that's that.
Okay. Senate just voted again to block the president's tariffs on Canada. They've done it 2 times now, and this is ahead of the Supreme Court vote on a decision on whether he's using correct authority to do these tariffs. And another day in which at least some Republicans in the Senate have defied the president. It's unusual. Maybe they're all one-offs, but it is happening. All right. I have one more question for the two of you. We talked about the shutdown. Karen, when and how do you think it will end, if you had to guess?
I think it's going to end when the president pays attention and hears from not poor people, but companies that are being thwarted in their investments and their profits are being hit. The Amazons, the hyperscalers will complain.
Okay, Kristin?
Definitely not before next week. I want to say before Thanksgiving, but I think that both parties will kind of reevaluate the political environment after elections on Tuesday and see, who feels more confident and who's going to try to find victory and marginal defeat and vice versa.
Yeah. Very grateful to love having you both on and hope you'll come back on a regular basis, as I say every time you're here, because every time you're here, you're awesome. So thank you both.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay. Tomorrow on the morning meeting, and Sean and I will kick things around. And remember, in a few hours, the president will be meeting with Premier Xi. So we'll have full coverage of that on the program. On next up tomorrow, Ro Khanna, congressman from California. And then we're going to talk to a few reporters about the upcoming races on Tuesday, including the New York primary, New York general election for the mayor. We're also going to talk to a guy named Alex Seitz-Wald, who is a former national reporter, worked at NBC News. He's a national reporter. He started with some others, a newspaper in Maine called the Mid-Coast Villager. And it's a startup newspaper, and he's covered the Plattner story as much as anybody. And so he's going to be with me to talk about on the ground how he got 700 people to that event. And I think I'm right about this. I believe he tweeted today that he's been trying to find a voter who was going to be for Plattner, but because of all these controversies is now not. And he says he hasn't been able to find one, and he's worked really hard. I'm still working with David Burrell to hopefully do a focus group of Maine Democrats next week so we can ask Maine Democrats what they think about all that's happened. It's an interesting story, but it's also it's a test of a lot of things about how what expectations voters these days have in their politicians. And of course, as you know, one of the only things that's true in politics today, as it was 100 years ago, is as goes Maine, so goes America. Thank you for being part of the two-way community. Thanks to Kristin and Karen. I'll see you tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time with full coverage of the Trump Xi summit and everything else. Have a good evening.